While NHL teams chase the Stanley Cup in North America, across the ocean there's another type of hockey championship, the World Hockey Championship. And for insight on the tournament, we bring in Stephen Brunt in our Sportsnet studios in Toronto. So, Stephen, if Canada's best, like Sidney Crosby and Jonathan Toews, are unavailable to play, who suits up for these tournaments?
Well, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, a mixed bag. There are players from teams that are eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, some teams that didn't qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs. But even at that, the players have to want to go. It's not like they can be compelled to go. So it's kind of a self-selecting group in a lot of ways. You get the call from Hockey Canada. It's the end of a long hockey season. You have to make up your mind whether you want to participate in this tournament, get on a plane, fly somewhere far away. So it's really the team from year to year can have a very different character depending on who's available, who's out of the playoffs, and who wants to go.
Obviously, there's a lot of young players get a great opportunity here too, right?
Yeah, and especially this year, there are a lot of young guys on the team this year. Most notably now Nathan MacKinnon from Colorado, who has joined the team. It's for those guys. You have players who maybe played in the World Juniors, who or under 18 or under 17 for Canada. It's a chance to put on the maple leaf and go represent their country. And I think also at the end of a season, they might still have a little more jump in their legs. They might have a little more hockey in them than some veteran guys who think, I need every one of these off days and these off weeks over the summer to recover and get ready for the season to come.
I've always wondered this myself, Stephen. I wonder if you can give me some insight on this. It's called, the World Hockey Championships, but how does a tournament crown a country world champion if the best players aren't playing in it?
Well, it's a bit of a holdover from a different world. The old kind of IIHF world, really, which was about European hockey. It wasn't about the NHL. Canada didn't really pay any attention to this tournament. It was incredible, an afterthought for Canadians because it was the Stanley Cup, and there were the occasional Summit Series or World Cups. We didn't really care about this thing until we won. And then suddenly, like the World Juniors, it became one of the biggest events, a big event for Canadian hockey fans. But this is about European hockey, and they've always taken it extraordinarily seriously in Europe. The people who follow teams there, this and the Olympics are their Stanley Cup. And European players in the NHL, it's the same thing. Those guys who can, if they can go to this tournament, it's generally had more importance for them than it has for North American players.
Well, for sure. A lot of people over there will say the Stanley Cup doesn't mean as much either. So if this doesn't determine a true hockey champion, then, and if NHL players aren't able to participate in the future Olympics, do we need to change the system and make a new event?
Well, I think what we're going to do, I think what's going to happen, Walter, is we're going to go back to an old event. There are a lot of rumbles about that. We really don't know if the NHL will be in the next Olympics, which are in South Korea in 2018. That is an open question, obviously, making that kind of a trip with all the time zones and all the distance. You got to wonder whether the NHL is going to go for that. But I think the World Cup is coming back. And, people may remember there was a World Cup, that event, an NHL-created event with NHL players, where the NHL makes all the money. I think we're going to see the World Cup revived sooner rather than later.
It'd also be maybe nice to see some amateur players, an amateur event as well. Anyway, Stephen, thank you so much for all your insight on this. We'll see you next week, and we'll talk more.
Thanks, Wilder.